Item number 16, Bill for Consideration and Council, Sri Jagat Prakash Nadda, Surrogacy Regulation Bill.
The Surrogacy Regulation Bill, passed by the Lok Sabha on Wednesday, has sparked a nationwide debate.
The bill may be, as amended, may be passed.
What has not really gone down well with the society is the fact that it talks about single parents, homosexuals and live-in couples cannot apply for surrogacy.
The bill has to now be passed by the Rajya Sabha. Once the bill becomes law, there will be a complete ban on commercial surrogacy.
Surrogacy, commercial surrogacy should be immediately stopped, and altruistic surrogacy should be only the way on the ethical grounds.
The Health Minister says the bill aims at ensuring women are not exploited in the name of surrogacy.
Who's to be the surrogate mother? What?
The bill, meanwhile, has invited widespread criticism from activists, lawyers and women's health groups.
What they have done is clamp down on a whole lot of things, and also very regressive that homosexuals cannot do surrogacy, transgenders, all other categories cannot do.
And I think in India, we need to have monitoring of such bills.
Even the LGBTQ community has rejected the bill, as the new surrogacy bill effectively means that a homosexual couple can never have their own child.
Not allowed to, go for a surrogacy. And the other thing is, they have set up a, apparently appropriate authority who will, decide that whether the couple is eligible or not.
One problem.
Mira now asks, will the new surrogacy bill put an end to commercial surrogacy and exploitation of women? With so many conditions on who is not eligible to opt for surrogacy, isn't the new bill being discriminatory? Let's debate.
The motion is adopted and the bill as amended.
Well, that's the conversation we're having today. Very strict bill being brought in by the government that's passed through Lok Sabha. Remember, it still has to go through Rajya Sabha. Now, here's what the bill says, and it's on your screen. It completely bans commercial surrogacy, which means that a woman cannot receive payment for being a surrogate mother. So, for carrying the baby to term for 9 months and handing it back to its biological parents, nobody can get paid for that act anymore. It needs to necessarily be a family member who agrees to do this for free. That's point one. Point two, couples who have been medically certified as unable to have children are the only ones who can use surrogacy. Couples who don't have children at all, so which means that if there is a couple who has one child and decides to have the second one via surrogacy, they cannot do so. Single people and the LGBTQ community have been left out completely. They do not have the right to access surrogacy to have children. Also, very interestingly, no foreigners or persons of Indian origin can come to India for the service of surrogacy. And finally, and interestingly, the bill makes no mention whatsoever on donor eggs or sperm. Let's assume there is a couple who, by the government's definition, has been married for 5 years, has been certified as unable to have children, doesn't have children of their own, and one of those reasons is because one of them is unviable. The bill makes no mention of where the donors will come from or what the rules are as far as those donors are concerned. Now, the government also seems very preoccupied by ensuring that India doesn't become a surrogacy hub. So the question that we're asking is this: does the bill ensure that women are not, as the government has said, exploited for surrogacy, or is it far too restrictive, making it almost impossible for parents who want children to get them? Joining me on the show, Padma Shri Dr. Indra Hinduja, IVF and infertility specialist at Hinduja Hospital. Flavia Agnes is a women's rights lawyer. Harish Iyer, LGBTQ rights activist. Dr. Nikhil Dattar is a gynecologist at Cloud9 Hospital. Tina Sharma, spokesperson of the BJP. I welcome all of you to this conversation. I want to start with Dr. Hinduja. Good evening and thank you for joining us. We were having a conversation in the break where you said there are 2 or 3 main points with the bill that concern you. Could you take us through what those points are, please?
First, most important, the statement made that they want to prevent the exploitation of the women. See, exploitation is done in every field. Which field is not being done? But our job is to catch it and punish them, not for the other thing which are really going to be benefited. The bridge collapsed, that doesn't mean that we are not going to construct the bridge. We are going to construct. The person who has given you bad service, just punish that person.
Yes.
Similarly, I agree that at some places the women are being exploited, but I don't think by and large it happens. If the woman or the couple knows that their genetic child is growing in surrogate's womb, they take utmost care of that woman. At many places, they give them the decent house, they see to that they get a good food, they see to that they are put in the comfort. They also pay for the servant who will do the job in the house, like cleaning, cooking and all that. And many a times the children's fees are being paid. I know the people that they carry the food to their house, dry fruits, the food, ghee and all that. In other words, they know that woman will not eat alone. She is going to feed her children. So in case she has to get a small amount, she takes it 4 times because she will eat, children will eat and the husband will eat. And if you see the situation in which they live or environment, you really feel sorry. And this is in a short time they earn lakhs. And it's been really used in a very different way. And sometimes the genetic parents help them that how you should utilize your money.
Let me come back to you. I'll come back to you on the other points. Flavia Agnes joins us as well, women's rights activist. Ms. Agnes, if you could tell us where you stand on the matter, and I'm sure you've had a close look at the bill. Do you believe it's too restrictive, or do you think that it does well to protect women?
Yeah, as Dr. Hinduja said, of course there has been exploitation of women. There may be a few cases where all this is happening, where a couple is looking after the bearer of the child. But in most cases, the couple doesn't even know who is carrying the child. And it's the medical profession who is acting as an intermediator between the surrogate mother and the couple. Now, in such situations, women are kept locked up, women are isolated from their families, and they're just looked at as machines to produce a child. And there was exploitation here by the medical profession. But at the same time, you have to stop the exploitation of women, but not bring a curb in this manner and stop all kinds of surrogacy. That is not the answer. You have to protect the women better. You have to give them certain legal rights. They should know where their rights lie. And there has to be a curb on the medical professionals so ensure that the one bearing the child is looked after, and there have to be norms there. This is what we had demanded. But what we got instead is a total ban, and that is very regressive. That's very regressive because it violates Article 14 and 15. There's a lot of discrimination that's happening here. Among all the people, like if you are a single mother and you want to have a child, you cannot have. If you are from the LGBT community, you cannot have a child. If you have already had a child, you cannot have another child. I mean, all these kind of restrictions would only make the practice go underground. And that is even more exploitative for women who are willing to be surrogate mothers. Because there are no rules and regulations now. You cannot even demand money. And whatever is thrown at you, you will accept because you are in dire need. And the practice will go on. And this is the most dangerous thing this bill has done. And somewhere we need to look at it, and I hope when it goes to Rajya Sabha, a better sense will prevail. It is shocking that our legislators who have passed this bill have not even examined the social issues that it has impact on. And they have passed this bill without due consideration. And that is the most worrying part.
Well, I have, one more question. I want to take this to Dr. Nikhil Datar, who joins us as well from Cloud9 Hospital. Dr. Datar, thank you for joining us. Good evening to you. There have been reports of people sort of customizing children, engineering children, Caucasian, egg donors, people want children who are nearly blonde, blue eyes, specifications. Now, while that might be an ethical problem, where do you stand on this bill? Do you believe it's too restrictive, or do you think the government is doing the right thing here?
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly said, that if at all we want that people should not have these kinds of engineered kind of children in terms of Caucasians, etc., then the simple question, cross question is this, that why the existing bill does not talk of egg donors? Why does it not talk of sperm donors? So are we trying to say that the egg donors and sperm donors cannot be exploited and only the surrogates can be exploited? The answer is no. I mean, if it's about exploitation and if the primary aim and motive is exploitation, now whether it is an exploitation or no is a different story altogether. But if we believe in the theme that it is an exploitation, then we need to also take care of the egg donors and sperm donors who can potentially be exploited. But that is, the existing bill is completely mum on that. And I completely agree that the existing bill is very, very regressive. In fact, the existing bill is almost of the sort that is going to make it impossible for surrogacy to actually get executed. I mean, if you are going to try and say that it should be close relative of the woman in the current nuclear family kind of a situation, how many close relatives do we really speaking have who will be in the reproductive age group, who will be able to be a surrogate? And why even have only close relatives? Why can't you not have your friends? Why can't you not have your colleagues or somebody of that sort? So all in all, I think it's an extremely regressive way of putting it up. So you're just trying to say that, well, it can be done, but you actually speaking land up not making it effectively happen. And then it is better rather to say that, okay, we don't want surrogacy in our country for that matter. So very sad, very, very regressive, all in all, and very superficial. I really do not know how much time was really spent in the Lok Sabha when this bill was passed. I mean, what kind of discussion really happened, how much discussion happened, and how many people were really aware of the fact that what was really being discussed. So I have many such kinds of questions in my mind.
Well, to answer some of your questions, comments that actually came in, different parties who spoke during the debate supported the bill. NCP leader Supriya Sule said it's a good bill, but it's not modern enough. Trinamool Congress leader Kakoli Dasidar has said same-sex couples should be allowed to have a child through surrogacy as well. And the BJD said surrogacy industry has been thriving due to a regulatory gap, and he asked the government to define who these close relatives will be. Harish Iyer, the question of LGBTQ people not being mentioned, actually, it's not that they're not being allowed, they haven't even been mentioned. Again, post 377, we'd all hoped that we would be able to see a more inclusive society, but it still seems like our lawmakers aren't even looking at this, all of us together.
In fact, Faye, what really happened in 2016, Sushma Swaraj very categorically stated that homosexuality is against Indian ethos and they are not going to allow homosexuals to go through surrogacy. So now that was pre-Section 377 era. Now it's post-Section 377 era. Her thoughts, I want to check with the BJP person if her thoughts have changed now and whether she feels that homosexuals are actually unfit to take care of children, or they are unfit, or they are, do you think that we are exploitative? Because what really this bill has done is it has banned surrogacy. Because no one, I'm not going to find my cousin sister who would come and say, hey, you're my brother, so why don't, can I give you my womb so to bear your child?
Yes.
That is not going to happen. It is not some fancy Hindi film where something like this happens. So I think they've banned surrogacy and they don't have the guts to say that in those many words. So they've thought of this convoluted route of saying these things, and I'm really ashamed that such a statement, there's not even a provision to take care of surrogate mothers. What is going to happen to those mothers who were earning an income with something like this? So over there, so it's discriminatory. It's absolutely myopic as well.
Yes, so like Dr. Dhatar, and you said that it's...
add one thing. They are talking about the close relation. Have you ever thought of what will happen to the psychology of the child?
Yes, and the entire family
absolutely. Yes. When you adopt a child from the family, let's say one brother has given son to another brother, you know what the child feels? He's so lost in that, to who are my real parents? And in the same family, and he can never be, on the namesake he's there. What happens if the child sees, oh, that's the lady who has given the egg and that's the woman he has brought me in the world? And you ever thought what will happen to that?
Yes, in fact, let's ask Tina Sharma of the BJP. Ms. Sharma, you've heard, and I must tell you quite honestly that our team put together a group of experts in every area, and we didn't know, and I didn't know until we started talking, that everyone, Flavia Agnes included and Dr. Dattar included, will think that this bill is regressive. Would you please, and let me break this down one by one. If did the government mean to ban surrogacy altogether? Did you want this technology or this sort of science and this development to leave the country? Was that the intention of this bill?
I think the idea behind, taking up this bill in this spirit in the parliament was to, somewhat stop commercial use of surrogacy. That's one thing I can understand from this bill. But yes, I also understand that this bill lacks many things. And when I went through your research, which you've sent me, and I saw few things, coming out of parliament, then I realized that this bill needs a lot of other corrections, and this bill should be, should not be discriminatory in a way where people should not adopt for their rights. Having said that, I would say that there are other laws in the country where a single parent, especially a man, cannot adopt a girl. A single parent, or there are other things where a child is not being given to the particular gender due to certain rules and regulations. Keeping something in the mind, I completely understand that. But then, yes, there's something lacking in this bill, and I have gone through, and I completely agree with the doctor on the panel who says that if a child is coming from the close family, will have trauma and will definitely go through trauma.
But Tina Sharma, I appreciate you agreeing with my panel. But please tell me, why would Mr. J.P. Nadda table a bill in Parliament that an entire panel, the BJP spokesperson included, disagree with? So has the government done absolutely no research?
Let us not, comment on that. I
think that's exactly what we should comment on.
But yes, this bill will go to Rajya Sabha and will...
No, what does that mean? Are you telling me that Lok Sabha is tabling bills without research, without thought, hoping that Rajya Sabha will block it? That makes absolutely no sense, Tina Sharma. These are the lawmakers of our country.
I don't think
why would the government do something so irresponsible?
Faye, let me complete.
Unless you can defend this bill, in which case, please go ahead and defend it.
Faye, let me complete. Faye, let me complete. I think, let me complete, Faye. I would say that, they must have something in their minds, while drafting this bill. But then, as a woman, I think you need more.
Yes.
They might be having something in their minds, which I can't read. It must be well thought of, bill.
Oh really? Hang on, Tina Sharma, hang on. Let me stop you there. Yes, let me stop you there. If you are suggesting that as a woman you feel the bill should have more, but maybe they had some sort of well thought out strategy that you cannot figure out as a woman, I disagree with you. The surrogacy bill is about women, and over again we find our government leaving women out of decisions that they make about women. There aren't enough women in government, and that is the problem. You don't consult the doctors, you don't consult the women, you don't do research. Look at the visual on the screen right now. How many men... You don't consult the surrogates. Constantly we find ourselves with a government making decisions for women without considering women, and that is the problem. Making decisions for transgenders without considering the transgenders, making decisions for the LGBTQ community without actually consulting with them. This is appalling. This is why we need a women's reservation bill. And I would like you, please, as a spokesperson of the BJP, to defend this bill if you can. And if you cannot defend the bill tonight, then obviously our government is unable to do basic research.
No, I don't think I don't think I have, I can defend the bill, but yes, I think it should be more, it should be more in the spirit of, giving equality to all genders, and let us not, I don't think, I mean, we should, take this in that manner, and
then what manner do you want
believe
me
that
to take it in?
there must be something in their minds which I'm not able to figure out.
Well, you're not alone. None of us are able to figure out what they have in their minds. But tell me, in what manner should I receive this bill at this point? You said don't take it in that manner. What manner should I receive it in? How are you justifying it to yourself?
I don't think any, I don't accept that, government will not think before billing, before getting bill on table in the parliament. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it at all. They must have considered, they must have, consulted many people, many organizations. I don't think that is one reason, but yes, there should be something more in the bill. That is what I can say. And I am not defending while saying that. Don't get me that way. But yes, I strongly believe that, there should be something more in the bill, and which is needed.
So obviously,
which is needed for a healthy society.
You know what, Tina Sharma, I'll tell you something.
Which is needed for children.
I'll tell you something. We have a researcher on our team. He's very young. He's in his early 20s. His name is Aditya Hazarika. He's done better research apparently than the entire health ministry has done today, because by reading through his few pages of research, you figured out that the bill is wanting, but the health ministry has not figured out the same thing before tabling this bill before parliament, and they've been working on it for 2 years. It's completely unacceptable. Unacceptable that you aren't able to defend this bill right now. Go ahead.
I think the government is definitely not qualified. That's precisely what Tina Sharma is saying, that the government is not qualified. They don't put their thought behind processes. The lady sitting next to me right now is a Padma Shri.
Yes.
So was she consulted? She is somebody who the government has, the government of the nation has actually, has acknowledged with the civilian honor. Have you been consulted on this?
Not at all.
Yeah, so that by itself explains, you haven't consulted the necessary people who have actually been awarded a civilian honor. So did you sit in a closed room and just decide that this is going to be...
Actually, that's an excellent question, Harish. Let's ask that question also of Nikhil Datar. Nikhil Datar is with Cloud9 Hospital. Were you consulted, or do you know of any of your colleagues who were consulted, Dr. Datar?
No, I was not consulted, and I am not aware of any particular people whether they were consulted or no. But generally, I would say that it is a common system that the larger organizations of doctors or gynecologists are generally consulted. I am not particularly aware of the fact whether the larger organizations such as Foxy were into the picture or no. But yes, I mean, the fact of the life is this, that agreed that we can't have exploitation of women happening, but at the same time that does not mean that you basically restrict it to such a level that actually speaking execution becomes impossible, and then you try to say that well, this is the way of stopping exploitation. So I think it actually speaking is absolutely a complete sham in order to try and say that you are trying to prevent exploitation. Actually speaking, the bill should have come more forthright. The bill should have been more liberal. The bill should have said and should have actually speaking written down in elaboration about the rights and the responsibilities of all the stakeholders, and particularly about the rights of the surrogate mothers in terms of uplifting their quality of life by doing surrogacy. So this particular aspect has absolutely kind of completely been left out in the bill, and I really can't understand the aim and the objective of the bill and the rest of the bill, how they are really in sync. I really completely fail to understand that.
Well, let me tell you that the members of the Federation of OBGYN Society of India, which is Foxy, which is what the doctor was referring to, have made a statement today saying they would ask the government and Lok Sabha to redraft the surrogacy bill because it is insensitive to the plight of infertile women. The bill passed on Wednesday. Like we said, that's the bill we are referring to. Foxy has asked for the bill to be redrafted entirely. But I have the same question for Flavia Agnes, a very well-respected women's rights activist, a lawyer. Ms. Actis, were you consulted? Do you know of any of your colleagues in the legal community who were consulted? Have you heard
Not
of
at
any
all,
sort of
not
consultation
at
at all? Go ahead, please.
I don't know who was consulted. Not at all. And I have written against the draft bill when it was first formulated and came into the public domain. I have criticized it extensively. And as another person on the panel said, at that time 377 was criminalized. Today it is not. So there was a duty to redraft it, at least in that context, that homosexuals cannot be discriminated, the LGBT community cannot be discriminated, two women opting to have a child together cannot be discriminated. Now, all these discriminations had to be listed out. And I agree, I've been part of the campaign which says that surrogate mothers have been exploited by the medical profession. That the answer to that is to have a blanket ban on surrogacy or have all these constraints which will make it absolutely invalid to have a surrogacy in India. And that is the very sad part. And we're bypassing science, technology, medical advancement, everything to bring this blanket ban.
A quick question, Flavia Agnes, with the remove or the writing down which the Supreme Court did to 377 and we legalized homosexuality in this country, the Supreme Court said very clearly we are not to discriminate with the transgender community and with the LGBTQ community. Isn't this obvious discrimination? Isn't the government in this particular case in contempt of Supreme Court?
Apart from this case, there also this NALSA judgment, which has given the transgender community a legal right of existence, acknowledging a third gender. There's also, I think, a bill passed for the protection of the transgender community. Now, you have all this going on one side, and then you have a bill like this coming on the other side. It looks like we're working in silos. With transgender community, we have special attention, and we address certain issues. Medical profession, we have another panel which discusses these issues, and there's no communicating between them. They go very independently and bring out bills which has no legal standing, and this can be easily challenged in the Supreme Court.
In fact, here's a voice we all must hear out. Ashish has called us from Vadodara. He's a surrogate father himself. Ashish, go ahead, please.
Hi, Faye. I congratulate you for taking up this issue. I want to tell you that we are the couples with infertility, and we had to end up with surrogacy to have my kids, wonderful kids that I have now. Had this been there earlier, I would never have been able to father the kids. And this is going to be an issue now for all those infertile couples who are genuinely wanting to reproduce and have kids. So this bill must be withdrawn, and the government needs to rethink the decisions that they have taken, putting in the clauses which are not appropriate.
Quick question for you, Ashish, is this. Now, the government has taken a clear view that women who function as surrogates for money are being exploited by the medical community and perhaps by the biological parents as well. As someone who used the system yourself, more than once apparently, what can you tell us about the women who function as surrogates?
The women who agreed to be surrogates are totally made aware of what they are going to go through, and they are very well taken care of. In fact, with the best of the hands of the doctors are taking care of them, probably giving more care than the routine pregnant women would take. And so I do not agree that these women are being exploited. They agree for probably the financial reasons, but even then, they are being taken care of extremely well. And I do not agree that it's a misuse of the system or the science that we have.
Yes. We also have Hari Krishnan on the phone line from Guruvayur. Hari Krishnan, go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Hari Krishnan. We can hear you.
Okay. I'm not against any legal framework for surrogacy, but the present law we have is too regressive and discriminatory, as the panel rightly said. And I think the government is actually trying to ban surrogacy altogether. This will only increase illegal surrogacy, and this delegitimize the living partnership, singles who want to be father or mother, and the homosexuals in particular. The current conservative government that we have is trying to impose conservative family values through this regressive law on us.
Yes. So you say, Hare Krishna, that this is moral policing and not really the idea of protecting women. Doctor, you had a point to make. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, to make any bill, any law, you should first see what your country wants, what your state wants, what your people want. Have you ever consulted the lady who is undergoing agony, who doesn't have the child? When her uterus has been removed, her uterus is affected by the disease, or uterus is not there, she's born without the uterus. You think that lady should live lifelong without the pleasure of having a child? You have never taken all these people in consideration. When you pass any bill, who are the beneficiaries, what they are getting it, is it worth to get them? It is really a agony. They have not considered the surrogate, they have not considered genetic parent, they have not consulted the specialist, and they have not consulted the people or maybe single parent. Why they want? They don't want it for the pleasure. And few people, group of some people sit and draft the law for the entire country. I think that's not right.
I think the caller who called up from Guruvayur made a very interesting point. This is moral policing.
Yes.
This is basically to let people know that gay people cannot have children. You shouldn't have children at all.
Yes.
If you're single, you cannot have children. If you're a live-in couple, you cannot have children. You are allowed to have a child only if somebody from your family who's between 25 to 35 years of age and who has a child of her own, who is willing to give her womb. Which is,
I find this very funny about the moral policing, the fact that you've said that only couples who've been together for 5 years. So what does that mean? That only if you've been married for 5 years it's going to stick?
No,
that people who've been married for fewer years don't
if the
count?
lady gets married at the age of 40 and she thinks of going for surrogate when she is 45?
Yes. There's in fact also, let me also point out to you, there's also, and it is also ageist. They have put an age gap on it, saying that those above the age of 55, so according to the provisions of the bill, women within the age group of 23 and 50 are the only ones who can opt for surrogacy. If you're above the age of 50, it's no longer an option for you. Men aged between 26 and 55. So what if there is an older gentleman and a younger wife, or an older woman and a younger husband? Basically, there is this whole moral idea of what the ideal family should be like, which is being forced down
in fact,
at the cost of science.
In fact, even from TMC, Kakuli had made a statement saying this is going to end fashion surrogacy.
Yes.
So I don't know what is fashion surrogacy, and I really take offense to calling people who actually have undergone, just because they are from a privileged background, whether it's Karan Johar or whether it's anyone, they are people of our larger community, and we are not going to sit down and watch people label them as fashionistas. What is fashion?
What I don't understand, and I'm going to do this exercise where I will ask you that if you were to write a list of rules to protect the women who function as surrogates, what would those rules be? And I'll come back to you on that. But Tina Sharma, I think there's a question that we must ask here. What is the view of the ruling government right now on the LGBTQ community and transgenders? Do you actually believe these people shouldn't be allowed to marry, shouldn't be allowed to adopt, shouldn't be allowed to have children? Because that's what it looks like. So is there a clarification the government would like to offer us? Tina Sharma, can you hear me? All right. Tina Sharma, can you hear me? My team tells me that the audio is going through clearly. I'll ask the question
Are
again.
you asking me?
Yes, I am.
No.
No. Tina Sharma, please. Tina Sharma of the BJP. I'm going to ask the question again. What is the view of the ruling government on the LGBTQ community? Does the government believe that members of this community should be allowed to have children? Because if you believe no, you will be in contempt of court.
Yes. I don't think anybody can, say no to it, because we already have Supreme Court ruling on that. And I think we should not forget that, it has come recently, and a lot of people have been fighting for it. So let us not go into that. But yes, if I may say so, then...
Yes, go ahead, please. Ms. Sharma, we're listening.
Come again. No, I'm saying that there's a Supreme Court ruling on that. So no one can say that. I am not saying, you don't expect me to say that. I'm not saying that, but yes, this bill is to end commercial surrogacy, and it is just to end commercial surrogacy, because we also know that, you know, what kind of trauma these commercial surrogate women go through.
What kind of trauma
in the clinics,
do they have
how
to
they
go
get
through?
exploited, how they get exploited by doctors.
What kind, can you tell me, for example, Tina Sharma, how many cases of surrogacy take place across the country in a year? And in how many of those cases are the women being exploited? Does the government have that research?
But there are some cases. I mean, you can't calculate that way, you know. It is right for everyone. There are some cases where women don't get paid. There are some cases
I'm sure
where
there
women
are.
get
In fact, on our channel, we
doctors.
broke
Most of the
stories where
money
we
is going
actually
to
met with
doctors,
these women.
not
But
to the
Tina
surrogate
Sharma,
mothers.
how does it make sense to ban surrogacy altogether? And let's assume, let me grant you that. In that ban right now, why have you left out the LGBTQ community? Tina Sharma of the BJP, why does this bill explicitly exclude the LGBTQ community?
I think, you know, as per my understanding, because I'm just trying to figure out what was the idea of, you know, banning LGBT community from this bill, from this privilege. I think, you know, you don't know what gender you'll get or what child gender you'll receive after birth. And I think there are you know, laws where a single man or single male parent cannot adopt a girl or
Tina,
cannot adopt
have you done enough? Have you done, if you think that surrogacy,
opposite gender,
there is enough research across the world, if you do some research, if you just do a Google search, which actually proves that LGBT parents are as good or as better parents than heterosexual parents. So if you had done that research, if Sushma Swaraj and everyone who spoke very vociferously against the LGBT community did that research, then they would actually understand that LGBT people are as good parents as anyone else. So that's number one. Secondly, what are you speaking about the gender of the child? If you don't know an answer, just admit that you don't know an answer. We never discriminated on the basis of the gender of the child. That's a very straight thing to do. LGBT people don't do that.
No. I think, Harish, there are two different things which you're mixing. One is adopting a child, and second is going through the process and taking a child. There are two things. So I think you're mixing two things together.
Direct question, Tina. She asked you a question. What is the government stand on LGBT people? You don't want us to adopt? You don't want us to go through surrogacy? So do you not want us to have the joy of parenthood at all?
I don't think that could be the idea of, you know, taking up this bill in the parliament. I think government has all concern for all people. Government talks about equality.
It doesn't.
I don't think there's anything of that sort in the bill.
Sushma Swaraj has very explicitly mentioned this.
That's okay. That's your opinion.
That's not my opinion.
That's your opinion.
Sushma Swaraj has mentioned this in her own words. So guess you should do some research about your own party.
That was before Supreme Court judgment.
And after Supreme Court judgment, you were still writing out bills that explicitly discriminate against single people, against the LGBTQ community, against transgenders, against women with infertility, against men with infertility. It is a bill that is ageist against people above the age of 50 and 55. there are all kinds of things wrong with this bill. I can't find a single person who thinks this bill was a good idea, except perhaps Mr. J.P. Nadda and the people in Parliament who voted today. And it really should be cause of concern that there were people in Parliament who thought this was a good idea, which means that I should actually lend at this point Aditya Hazarika and my colleagues Ragini to Parliament, because they perhaps be able to do a better job than what is happening in the government right now. Dr. Nikhil Datar, go ahead, please.
Well, I also wanted to make one very important point, that the current bill says that this particular provision of surrogacy will be available only and only to the people who are infertile people.
Yes.
Now, I have at this point of time a lady who comes from a fashion industry. She has got a problem of thrombosis, which means that she develops blood clots in her body, in her brain, and she is not infertile. But carrying a pregnancy to term is almost like risking her own life. Now, these are those type of people where they could have very nicely and very easily and very safely gone through surrogacy and produced a child for themselves genetically. Now, according to this bill, since this woman is not infertile, she cannot opt for surrogacy. So what does that mean? Does it mean that this woman should take risk for her own life and produce a child? Or because she does not fulfill the criteria of surrogacy bill, she should not become a parent at all? So there are many such kinds of medical conditions where undergoing pregnancy themselves, okay, can turn out to be risky for their life, and these people are also going to be left out from this surrogacy bill. So that's another very huge injustice to those people who really genuinely medically require surrogacy.
In fact, Bharat Desai is on the phone line from Mumbai, and I'm told he has a very good question. Mr. Desai, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening, panel. And I must congratulate Mr. D'Souza to take up this in a very strong way. And all the panel participants have, in totality, they have rejected this bill. On every count, it is failing to deliver what they had planned. And my question is, what happens to all those surrogate mothers who are already pregnant with 4 months, 5 months, 6 months? Will it be applicable to them from the day it is, or they will have to abort, or what happens?
No, Flavia Agnes, I think, would be the right person to answer this question. Ms. Agnes, it's a complicated situation, and I want to include
I just want to reply here.
Yes, I want to include in this question people who started conversations, who have started the process, who might not be pregnant, but at least the medical process has begun. What happens to all of these cases, Ms. Agnes?
Yes.
Now the bill is only in the lower house, in the Lok Sabha. It still has to go to Rajya Sabha. It still has to be notified. It has to get President's assent, and then it has to be notified. That will take a few months. And I think those already pregnant, 4 months, 5 months, I don't think the bill will apply to them. But the question you are asking is much more fundamental. Those who are going through the process, what's going to happen to them? Who have already undergone the process, they are in the maybe first month, second month, what's going to happen to them? Will they be now treated as criminals? Will they be treated as violating the law? And that's a very critical question. I think the bill will give a time period that people who are already started the process can be excluded from the application of this bill. But that still does not answer our question that this bill is controlling social morality.
Yes.
It is reflecting the social morality, and the 377 judgment has very clearly said that we are governed by constitutional morality and not social morality. And this bill grossly violates the Supreme Court mandate that you cannot have certain people's view against homosexuals, other people, age bar, etc. That we, the people in the Constitution, includes all of us, every single one, in different shapes, race, color, all of that, and sexual orientation. So according to me, this is grossly violating what the Supreme Court has laid down.
Yes.
And it's unbelievable how our government actually can present this bill in Parliament and how our parliamentarians actually passed it.
Yes, present this bill in Lok Sabha and pass it without thought, research or discussion. Here's my question to you, Padma Shri, Dr. Hinduja. If I were to ask you, assume I'm a government that cares about opinions. If I were to consult with you and ask you to frame cursory laws or guidelines to make sure that women are not exploited by this process? Is that a possibility? Can it be done?
Of course, there is a possibility. There can be a proper evaluation which are the women who will be benefited.
Yes.
And whether they're really doing for the sake of beneficial or just, as we say, for the heck of it, they don't want to carry. That's one. First person, woman has to also see whether she'll look after the baby well, what the bond is given to them. Second, who is going to be the surrogate? Whether there a good contract is being made between the two. And if the contract has been made, the surrogate who is taking the responsibility of that, she is first most important, fit to carry the pregnancy. So the evaluation of the woman has to be done. And what is she doing it for? Under what compulsion, under what necessary causes, or under what conditions she is going. And if you see to it, probably no surrogate you will reject unless she is medically unfit.
And the process of making sure that she's not exploited, kept in hostels, alienated from her family, cut off from her society, can we frame rules to make sure that doesn't happen?
See, looking after the surrogate is responsibility the person who has taken care of the couple or taken care of the couple. That means if I am responsible for that woman becoming pregnant for somebody else, it's my responsibility that she is looked after. So I would definitely see to that she is looked after well. And more than that, this is for the first time which I am going to tell you that the women, when you come for the surrogacy, they are totally investigated. I'm sure in their lifetime they will never go mammography, they will never go pap smear, they will never go all these tests. So they are being proved that they are physically
So I have a quick question before I go to Flavia Agnes. A quick question to you. The process of surrogacy and IVF and you know, the entire medical process tends to be long, drawn out. You have to be invested in order to see it through. It's not something, it's not like shopping. It's not something you decide to do in the morning and you get to do by the end of the day. It takes up to a year to complete just the process. Is it likely that women who will do it just for the heck of it with no real intention to look after the child? Or you know, a gay couple or a transgender or anybody else. No. Is it possible to do it without a clear intention and a desperate need to have a child?
I don't agree with that. Okay. They can never have the child just for the heck of it. Even though if you go into the depth of any infertile couple and counsel them, they are deprived of one of the best pleasure what God could have given them. They always say ki, to procreate the child is our birthright. And when we do not, it's not only that it hurts them, but also more so the society taunts them and all.
Flavia Agnes, very quickly, you had a point to make. Please go ahead.
Yes, you could regulate the process. You could put a curb on the number of surrogacy a woman can volunteer for. Yes. You could keep a gap, like you cannot have again and again, so you cannot be a surrogate mother. There should be a time gap and maximum limit, like 2 children or 3 children, you can be a surrogate mother. Now, these are the kinds of ways, and once you opt for it, these are your rights, and this is where you can go for implementation of those rights, or this is where you can go when the rights are violated. There have been cases where the women have delivered the child and the couple has rejected the child and the woman is left with the baby. Now, these kind of extreme situations have been there. So these things had to be curtailed. These things had to be regulated and women's rights should have been protected. Instead of that, banning all commercial surrogacy is absolutely absurd and it violates the rights of the surrogate mother who opts to be a surrogate. It violates the rights of the couple who wishes to be surrogate. And it violates the rights of all the people who have been left out of this bill. So it is altogether an extremely violative of all kinds of fundamental human rights.
Okay. Sure. All right. Unfortunately, I've run out of time and I have to leave the conversation here. But I make an appeal right now to the honourable members of the Rajya Sabha in Parliament. This bill is going to wind up on your table next. Please listen to the panel of experts here on this channel today. And we will be happy to assist the government and the Rajya Sabha in putting them in touch with a panel of experts if that's what you really need. But the truth is that this bill that has been passed today in the name of women's empowerment does everything but empower women. What it does is that it leaves out, and it is discriminatory against women who cannot have children or might be unfit to carry children to term. It is discriminatory against the LGBTQ community. It is discriminatory against older couples. It is discriminatory against single people. It's discriminatory against couples who already have a child and might want another one but might not be physically fit enough to carry one. It is discriminatory against those who've been married for less than 5 years. It is also, perhaps if we look at it, in contempt of court that tells us very clearly we are not to discriminate against each other, specifically the LGBTQ community, after the Nalsa and the 377 judgment. So please, for heaven's sake, to the government of India, relook at the bill. To the Rajya Sabha, before you pass it, have a conversation about it. Have someone do some research. We can't be, in 2018, passing bills without reading them or passing bills without fully thinking about them. Thanks for watching.